Ladies and gents, welcome to Next Level Radio. I am your host, Colby Wortman, and our mission is to tackle the biggest questions in strength and conditioning, business, investing, and everything in between. We bring to you the best people in every sector so that you, the listener, can benefit and learn from the best in the biz. Whether that is S&C or business, you can rest assured you're getting the best knowledge available. Next Level Radio continues to grow because of our listeners and our sponsors. Today we present to you Fat Fish Brewing, the official beer of Next Level Radio. Whether you're looking for a night out with family or smashing the best craft beers in the area, you will find it all at Fat Fish Brewing. Check out Fat Fish on Villard Street in Dickinson, or check them out on their website at fatfishbrewing.com. Our next sponsor, Nutridyne, a medical supplement company aimed at enhancing performance and addressing the underlying issues of disease. You will be hard-pressed to find the quality that you'll find at Nutridyne. Listeners of this podcast get 20% off all supplements. Just go to @coach_Wortman and click the Nutridyne link in our bio. Keep up with us on Instagram @coach_Wortman, on our website, nl-training.com, or keep up with us on the next episode of Next Level Radio. Now sit back, relax, and take in the mind-melting knowledge of this episode. Yo, beautiful people, you have decided to join us on Next Level Radio to talk nonstop banter, BS, and a little bit of knowledge here and there. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I could be very wrong, but I think this is episode 82. We're coming up on the 100 mark. Everything's blurring together, but it's been a freaking blast as is. And this podcast came out of a follower, a friend, somebody who follows me, reached out and said, when the hell is this podcast going to come out? And if I'm being completely honest, guys, I think my workload is very high, and I thrive there. I'm really good there, and I don't overdo it. But there's sometimes where I get this paralysis, like, what the hell am I going to talk about? Or what should I talk about? What topic? Who should I reach out to? X, Y, and Z. And this one was like glaring. I should be talking about it. I should be making content around it. I should be doing these things. And then this person pointed it out, and it was like, all right, let's run with it. And as of recent, guys, I have kind of told you guys about the journey that I've gone on nutritionally and what that means for me and how I'm kind of navigating that space. And so today is all about what the hell is the carnivore diet? Why the hell are people doing it? And what benefits could it possibly give you down the road? And the biggest thing, guys, is first off, I have to kind of introduce where we're at and how we got here, you know? And the big thing is today is going to be very impromptu. I don't have anything ready. That's what this podcast is about. I'm trying to be genuinely curious. And whether that's by myself or with a guest, we're just trying to be genuinely curious, because I found that notion of not thinking about what you're going to respond to as somebody says a sentence, if you can actually just absorb and react to that conversation, you're going to get a lot more eyes, and you're going to get a lot more people engaged, because it's a conversation. It's not, my name is Colby Wortman, I'm from Worland, Wyoming, and it's just a freaking interview. Like that doesn't do anything for anybody. So trying to be genuinely curious, and that's what we're going to do today. So living this carnivore lifestyle, guys, and I want to start with misconceptions, and then we're going to get you from that path from point A to point B all the way to where we're at right now. And this misconception, and people that I know and people outside that just they're like those little the lingerers, and they just, oh, that's stupid as shit. That's not good. It's bad for your kidneys. And they're just looking from the outside, trying to nitpick on people as they smash their Big Mac with a large Coke and some fries. Oh, carnivore's bad. You can't do that. You need a balanced diet. You need a little bit of carbohydrates. You need some special sauce. and you need a little bit of sodium with your fries and then wash it down with a large farva. This is those people that look from the outside, and you just got to set them aside and let them do their thing. So the misconceptions, a lot of people are like, well, only eating meat, you're having ribeyes every day, it's too much protein, it's going to hurt your kidneys, you're not getting any micronutrients. All that stuff can be misguided, and all that stuff can be proven wrong through just a intelligent conversation. And so the misconceptions behind Carnivore is, I don't make $500,000 a year. I'm not going to have a ribeye every night. I love ribeyes, and I got plenty of ribeyes, but it's something that we just can't do all the time. It's not feasible. And having said that, when Carnivore first started, people thought of it as that, and they thought that these rich people are just doing carnivore because they just want to. But we found out there's a lot of autoimmune possibilities and positive aspects of it, and there's a lot really behind it. And so not eating ribeyes every night and doing all these things, we're trying to get back to what made our human evolution successful and why that is important to the continually evolving human experience that we're in right now. And so, no, it's not eating ribeyes every day. It's having a variety of meats and having a variety of cuts and organ meats and marrow and all these different things that comprise and make up carnivore. And so getting us to this point, the overview of kind of my nutritional journey is a little bit different. And I'm dating this all the way back to middle school. So that pre-puberty years, you think girls are still weird. You're just a little off, right? I was 195, 200 pounds as a sixth grader, built like a sawed-off fire hydrant, walking around like a Peterbilt semi-truck. And it wasn't a fast semi-truck. I was stuck in first gear. I always had the Jake brakes on. And I was this just buck-toothed braces fat shit is what I was. And puberty is a wonderful thing. And that's how kind of all great things happen is puberty, right? And so in high school after that, I got introduced to a weight room. And this weight room completely changed my life. Obviously, I'm still a meathead to today. But the crazy thing is I graduated high school wrestling 195. So I wrestled that 195, 182, or it was 189 back in the day. And then I didn't gain hardly any weight. I just filled out and got 6 inches taller, much, much more sculpted rather than rounded. Round is a shape. I was just very round. And the weight room changed my life. My mom introduced it to me. My dad introduced it to me. My dad being a professional baseball player, my mom being like a triathlete and bodybuilder. And so it was always bred into me. And then in high school, I think I finished my senior year of football at 215, wrestling at 195, and did very, very well for myself there. Once I got into college, guys, there's a lot of bush lattes, especially in Hawkland, USA. And you start putting on some weight. And for me, I'm always conscious of that. I always had body dysmorphia to some extent, being very frank and honest. And so I never really got fat. I was trying to get ripped up. I was trying to have frickin' traps like loaves of bread and biceps like Arnold, just ripping people's heads off. And so I got upwards of 230. The day I blew out my knee, my last play of college football, I weighed in right at about 239, 240 that day. Obviously a little bit too big, but I was 230, 240 at about 10% body fat, which for NAI, D2, D1, that's legit. That's a legit spot to be at. And once I got through that, once I rehabbed, once I found out that my optimal weight is around that 200 to 210, maybe pressing it to 215. But I had some very, very severe concussion issues. And those concussion issues, I was having short-term memory loss. And then during my adult years, last year, I knocked myself completely out. Very, very severe concussion snowboarding. And it really sidelined me. I had some serious short-term issues, short-term memory issues. And throughout college and my adult years, I was suffering. And then I kind of figured out a way to actually fix myself instead of, oh, take ibuprofen, take Tylenol, whatever it is, rest, don't have any visual stimulation, X, Y, and Z, and that's all bullshit. And so post-college, I did not to lose weight. I did it to actually revamp and rebuild my neural pathways in my brain. I did keto for 2 complete years, completely strict. I got ripped up, but that wasn't my goal. My goal was to raise my BDNF, my brain-derived neurotropic factors. I was having curcumin, fish oil, creatine, magnesium L-threonate, the only magnesium that can pass the blood-brain barrier, all these things that would help revamp the neural pathways that were damaged and create new. And so I got down to like about 8% body fat, sitting around 210. And I love the keto lifestyle, and that's kind of where we got to today. But I had a hard time really hammering home the lifestyle. The lifestyle was getting in ketosis and traveling and not getting out of ketosis and doing all these things. And it became very burdensome, especially as I got married and had a family to actually think about instead of just being a selfish asshole, you know? And so I couldn't cook 2 dinners. I couldn't do all these things. And so keto lifestyle really set me up very well, though. My great friend, one of my best buddies in the entire world, Logan Franson, him and I did it together. And I wish I could find the picture. If I do, I'll post them up here. But how inflamed he was. Like, you look at his face, it was red and puffy, but you didn't know that because that's how Logan looked. And then he got on keto and completely slimmed out, changed his entire life. And to this day, Logan has completely revamped his nutritional protocols and has done very freaking well for himself. And so it's really cool to see. And then once I got into my adult life, guys, post-college, being a big box trainer, into owning my own gym, doing my thing, doing all that, I was very carb dependent. And I've always had this very unhealthy relationship with food. My mom was a professional bodybuilder. She got her pro card, just a freaking stud. And then after that, she went straight into triathlon and Ironmans and that kind of stuff. And that's like the craziest transition you ever heard. But without her knowing, and it was just her being so health conscious all the time, this body dysmorphia, this unhealthy relationship with food started, and it got way worse with wrestling. And so I would consider myself during high school wrestling, all that time, start of college, like as bulimic, like very not bad by any means, not like overarching where like drug addiction was for me. But I was definitely bulimic. And I could never be anorexic because I love my freaking food and I want to eat, but eating too much, indulging, or eating the wrong foods would trigger this thought and this, you're a fat shit, and your brain attacks yourself. And I know everybody deals with that. And so during wrestling, it was, okay, you can eat this food and throw it up later or whatever. And that culture in wrestling is very strong, much stronger than most people know. And it carried through all the way through high school and early college. And I was very carb dependent because I had this relationship with food that I was eating for pleasure. And eating for pleasure gets you in a very bad spot. And what I tell people, and I know it's hard because it's something that everybody has to do. We all have to eat. But if we can eat and look at food as fuel rather than a treat, it can change your life. And looking at it as fuel to do the things you want to do at a very high level, whether that's just hanging out with your kids, taking them to the park, playing ball, whatever it is, or if it's true Olympic weightlifting or strength and conditioning or playing a sport, let's look at food as that fuel rather than this treat. And I was very carb dependent. My big Achilles heel is bread and toast. And so I was, dude, this sounds freaking crazy saying this out loud, but for years, 3 or 4 years in a row, every single day, I'm a very analytical person, but I have terrible OCD. And so every day I had the same food every single day. If I didn't get that food, I wasn't satisfied. and that's a bad place to be in. So I'd have my eggs, I'd have my meat, whatever that is, but then I'd always have 2 pieces of toast with a shitload of butter on it. And then for these 3-year, 4-year period, instead of putting like jelly like a regular human being or just butter or peanut butter, I was putting heavy, large doses of butter and brown sugar. Yeah, you heard that. Brown sugar on my toast. I'm telling you, people, it's way better. It's very much superior to a cinnamon toast. Cinnamon toast, you're getting a little cinnamon, you're getting a little sugar. Brown sugar, it's like caramel, people. You're getting butter, a little bit of brown sugar. Things are getting Western. And it's freaking good. It's really good. My wife thinks I was crazy. But I'm telling you, my biggest thing is brown sugar. That was my crutch. That was my thing. Because you make caramel rolls. Ooh, baby. We get a lot of brown sugar and butter, make your actual caramel, and things get Western. You have diabetes by the time 5 p.m. hits. And so with all that carb dependency, I was addicted to that. And but the thing is you're addicted to that. But once that cycle breaks, once you can break that cycle, it changes for you. I don't crave that anymore. It's not my thing. And you can really revamp how you think and how you eat to an extent of changing your freaking life. And the big thing is when you're doing this thing, when you're eating this, and this is what I want to bring out to everybody that's watching this video and listening to this podcast, is our bodies over time, if we're doing the same thing or similar things, are going to suppress symptoms. They're going to suppress feelings of negativity. They're going to suppress stomach issues, farts, all these different things. And over time, it gets less and less and less, but you always just feel a little off. But if you never break that cycle, you think that that's normal. You think that feeling a little crappy, a little tired, your stomach is a little upset as normal. Like that's just what I live with. And when I was very carb dependent, that's what I was living with, and it's something that you don't realize until you can break that chain and get off of that and realize that like, no, my stomach shouldn't ache all day, or I shouldn't feel bloated. Like those are very small things that we don't realize until we actually break the chain. And so I found out that I cannot process carbohydrates very well at all because I have this crazy, super crazy metabolism. My wife will tell you, like, I eat dinner. When I was very carb dependent, I would eat dinner, and no kidding, guys, like absolutely no kidding, within 3 to 5 minutes, I am unloading some machine gun farts faster than you could ever imagine. And it's within 3 to 5 minutes. So my body is metabolizing, breaking down, and excreting these to some extent very, very quickly. I have this metabolism that's outrageous. Anytime I go to the doctor, if it's not a regular doctor that knows me, I'm always 1 to 1.3, 1.5 degrees hot. I'm always just running hot and heavy and have this heavy metabolism that allows that. And those carbohydrates just would not process well. And the biggest thing is I have massive amounts of farts, more farts than a normal human should have, okay? But the biggest thing, and I'm saying this seriously, I know it's funny, but very bad gas and always going to the bathroom, feeling bloated, and just having this natural bloat. Like, I work out all the damn time and I'm addicted to it, but I always had this bloat and this little fog, and people talk about that once they get on the other side, but you really don't realize it till you get there. So once I was able to break that chain and go into carnivore, and keto even helped a lot too. I wasn't getting the farts and all that stuff, but the lifestyle was hard to keep up. And so once I got into carnivore and I realized that, hey, my stomach should feel nothing. I should feel normal. I should feel satisfied. And that's kind of what we got to. And if I find these pictures, I want to post them up here on the YouTube video, on Spotify, but kind of want to start with my results with carnivore because it's been astronomical. And it started, the cool thing is I started this process. I have the ability to track. I had blood work done with my doctor to kind of see some different things. And the results with Carnivore are freaking crazy. It's really, really cool. So just day one till now, let's take that for now. The biggest thing is I started off at about 220, 221 pounds. And for me, naturally, if I'm carrying over 10% body fat, like that's high for me. And that's just for me personally, but it's definitely high for me. And so having said that is I was at about 10.8% body fat, 221 pounds, and my muscle mass was like 195.8 pounds of muscle mass. And the crazy cool thing, over a 2-month period, I dropped all the way down to about 206, 207, okay? But I got all the way down to 6.9 and 7.0% body fat. So I dropped over 3% body fat, almost 4% body fat. But the crazy, crazy cool thing, guys, and this is what you can only get with getting massive amounts of protein, is I was in a caloric deficit to some extent, but I was taking in 1 gram per pound of body weight and usually hitting over that. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you need 200 grams. So I was hitting about 215 to 220 grams of protein a day. And in that 2-month period, I lost zero pounds of muscle mass. The muscle mass completely stayed at 195.6. That doesn't happen in anything else, guys. We think about like skinny fat and eating a bunch of carbohydrates and just doing cardio and not having this sculpted look. It's very insane that I was able to keep the body muscle mass at the same exact number. I lost purely fat. My total body water, or my inflammation to some extent, came down. My fat came down. My muscle mass stayed the exact same. And so that is only possible with actually feeding your body what it needs to actually build. And that is protein. And it used to be this big misconception that eating too much protein is going to cause kidney issues and it's going to raise all these metrics and actually be very, very detrimental to your health. And that is actually very, very false. And so going from 221 to 207 pounds, from 10.8% body fat down to 6.9 and 7.0, that's a huge, huge change. And I really found out that I was just unable to process carbohydrates. That was the big takeaway. And I've had people say this, and I didn't ever see studies, and I want to see some studies before I really start ranting off on stuff. But out of the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, what they've shown is that as we age, as we keep going down this life, as we continue to get older, they did a study of people 70 and older. And their ability, the Mayo Clinic showed that the ability of the individual, the human, to process carbohydrates as we age becomes less. Our ability to process carbohydrates is hindered. And as we progress, it's much more positive for us if we can actually increase our protein intake. Because we think about the last 10 years of life. And usually what happens is we take a spill, we can't recover, we lose muscle mass, and we shrivel away. And so there's a correlation between the amount of muscle mass held and the length of life. If we can have optimal, not looking like the Michelin Man or a power lifter or whatever, but if we can have the optimal amount of muscle mass, it can actually increase our lifespan. And so what Rochester showed is people 70 and older who eat foods high in carbohydrates have nearly 4 times the risk of developing mild cognitive impairment. And the danger also arises with a diet heavy in sugar, Mayo Clinic researchers have found. So what they're saying is mild cognitive impairment would be onset of Alzheimer's. Okay, these are things that all these diseases, all they are is chronic inflammation over time. So we just have chronic, meaning over a period of time, chronic inflammation. And that's what causes all these issues. We think about diabetes, we think about Alzheimer's, we think about cancer, we think about all these different things. Increased inflammation increases the chances and cuts on our lifespan. So those who consume what Mayo Clinic showed, those who consume a lot of protein and fat relative to carbohydrates are less likely to become cognitively impaired. The findings are published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease. So it was done by the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, but it's very, very interesting to see that the more increased carbohydrates as we age can cause mental cognitive impairment, and the very opposite is true. Increased protein can actually help in that process. So that brings us to the meat and potatoes. No potatoes, just the freaking meat. The meat of the podcast and why I went carnivore. And I started carnivore just to give it the good old college try is what I was doing. And I really found out, guys, and this comes out of body dysmorphia, and it comes out of I'm actually very, very good at not really giving a shit what anybody thinks. I hold very few people in my life that their opinion can actually weigh on my life and change decisions in my life. And those people are very close to me. But it came out of knowing that I was not reaching my full potential, that I was bloated, that I was X, Y, and Z, that I was not contributing to the biggest potential that I had. And I knew that nutritionally that I was lacking, and that nutrition was a huge key. And what really kicked me in the freaking ass is is a quote by a Navy SEAL, and he talks about going to the gates of heaven. And when we get to the gates of heaven, and we're sitting there, and God lays out this big photo book or this big PowerPoint presentation. And David Goggins is the SEAL that said this. And he lays this all out, these pictures, these videos, these things, this list of all these things that we did, all these accomplishments, all these people that we helped, all this influence that we had on the world, these people that we brought back to God. And you start talking to him, and he's like, you remember all this? You remember all these memories, all these influences that you had, and this path that you took? And in the conversation, David said, no, I don't remember any of that. And what God says to him is, this is what you were supposed to be. This is what you were supposed to do. This is the influence you were supposed to have. These are the things that I set out for you to do. And if we don't truly address our actual potential, we're not going to reach that. And that really, really resonated with me. Like, I know it's just a small nutritional change. I know it's just a small thing. But who can I impact with that? Who can I impact with this podcast content? Who can I impact their life from going from diabetes, this nasty family history of very inflamed and unhealthy? Can I switch that for that family from now on, for their kids, their grandkids, and their great-grandkids? That's the impact that we want. And that was why that really, really resonated with me. As I mentioned earlier, as I get off that tangent, as I mentioned earlier, I fell in love with foods, and it was a very unhealthy relationship. It was an addiction to some extent. You're stressed, you eat. You're bored, you eat. You have nothing to do, you eat. And that was a very, very bad road that I had gone down. And most people don't see that because they see, oh, Colby's at 10% body fat and he works out all the time, he's healthy and all this, but it wasn't. That's not the case. And I had a very, very unhealthy relationship that I needed to break. And as soon as I started carnivore, guys, unlike keto, when I was on keto for those 2 straight strict years, because I had a bigger concept in mind that I needed to heal my brain, I was able to push through dedication and motivation. And not a lot of people can make it 2 years on that, but I needed to heal my brain. But during the whole ketogenic time, I was still craving carbohydrates. I was still craving sugars. I was still craving these foods that I had always loved. As I'm on carnivore, I'm almost to the 2-month portion. I don't crave those foods anymore. I don't crave toast. I don't crave carbohydrates. I don't crave sugar. And the reason why is because Carnivore MD has introduced fruits and introduced that type of food into the protocol to actually help with that, instead of just taking away all these different foods. We can actually satisfy ourselves with fruits, the things that are very cherished and very, very uplifting and sugary to some extent, but they give us that fuel. And so the whole carnivore thing really started 7 to 8 years ago, and it got very popular, and people were doing it for autoimmune disorders and just really trying to dive in and get this going. Like Mark Bell has been a big one. Carnivore MD, obviously, one of the big ones there. But then you look at like Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson actually did it to help him deal with autoimmune issues. And so keto really brought us to the point that we're here. And the ketogenic diet, along with Rob Wolf and the Mediterranean diet and the paleo diet and all these things, really brought us to the point that we're at now. It brought it brought meat to the forefront. And it allowed it to be a staple in the person's life. And so those are all great, and they fit different people differently, right? But it's something that with carnivore, it's been just much better to think about. Very simply put, my protocol that I'm following is all animal-based foods, okay? Raw dairies and fruit. That's it. That's all I do is animal-based food. So your meats, your organ meats, your nose to tails, your bone marrows, into raw dairies, into fruits. And it leaves me completely satisfied. It leaves me with great energy production, and I've lost weight from it. My goal was not to lose weight from it. My goal is just to be overall healthier and give something a shot that I didn't have to suppress all these terrible feelings of bloated or stomach issues or X, Y, and Z. And so when I first started with keto, it was this adaptation to fat burning state, right? Fasting and doing all these different things, but I had a lack of carbohydrates. And what I'm telling very power athletes, football players, basketball players, wrestlers, all these different things, is that lack of carbohydrates can catch up to you. But with this carnivore diet, you're still providing your body the protein that it needs. You're providing the body with adequate amounts of protein, 1 gram or more per pound of body weight, and your energy production can still be high. And that's why I have gravitated towards that. And I told you, I was just trying this to give it a shot and reach my potential. I have zero intentions of stopping this. Absolutely zero. I want to eat like this the rest of my life. I feel that good. It's not like with keto where I was just pushing through. I never told myself that I was going to eat keto the rest of my life. With carnivore, I truly believe that this is exactly what I should be eating, and it is what makes me feel the best. It could be different for most people, but it's what makes me feel the best. It cuts out all the bullshit, all the processed stuff, and it gives you exactly what your body needs. And then this gets us to the point of when keto started, when the Mediterranean and the paleo diet started, we talked about what did our ancestors eat? What did the hunter-gatherers eat? And when you think about hunter-gatherer, usually many people thought that our ancestors, the Native Americans, all the people that settled this world, that they ate nose to tail with the animals, buffalo, all X, Y, and Z, deer. They ate nose to tail. And then they ate vegetables or tubers or roots or different things in the vegetable family. And what we're finding, guys, is that may not be the case. So I wanted to kind of bring up the different examples, and I'll bring that up later, of all the Native Americans that actually cherish and celebrate fruit. And so the big thing that we want to think about here, and I'll get into the science of it a little bit here later, but technically, if we think about it, our ancestors probably did not eat the vegetables. They didn't eat the plants. They used plants for medicinal purposes, right? But the big thing to think about is, yeah, maybe they're starving. They're eating these different things. But what they optimally ate, what they really wanted to eat, was nose to tail, right? And then if we think about plants, what do plants produce? Naturally, our plants produce fruit. If if the plant is producing a fruit, if we think about natural human evolution, that's what it wants you to eat. That's the object that the plant wants you to eat, is producing and bearing fruit for that reason. And so instead of thinking about actually eating the plant, and we'll get into that, why that's could be controversial, our ancestors ate animal-based foods, nose to tail, used every single ounce of that animal, and they ate fruit. The thing that was joyous, the thing that brought joy to the community, the thing that was very uplifting, and it was their dessert, it was their sweet, it was their thing that satisfied the palate. And as I said, fruits were celebrated in many, many different cultures as a gift from our Creator. Because if you think about in the early settlers, and even earlier into the Native Americans, our mind, we can't imagine as fruit is that satisfactory thing as the natural American diet, because we have all these different sugary substances. We have all these artificially produced substances that are much sweeter than fruit. So we look at fruit as just, And what a lot of studies have showed is, prior to all the research done with Carnivore, is they were saying that massive amounts of fructose is actually a hindrance, or actually inherently negative for the individual. And actually what they found is that is false. The only time that massive amounts of fructose can be detrimental to the being is in addition to large amounts of carbohydrates. So we have massive amounts of processed carbohydrates, and then we add in massive amounts of fructose. That's when things can get ugly for the individual. But in the absence of carbohydrates, we're able to have enough or as much fructose or fruit as we want. So just a few examples. The Oneida Indian tribe would celebrate strictly and specifically strawberries, okay? So they would look at strawberries and these different types of fruit as gifts from the Creator. These are gifts from the Creator. The plant bears these things. In both Native American and China, they were both celebrated after winter with a celebration of fruit and animal products. So the celebration of making it through winter allowed us to have these different celebrations, these dances, these get-togethers, joyously celebrating animal-based foods and fruits. This brought joy, energy, fulfillment, satisfaction, things that we all can get from these foods instead of processed carbohydrates and sugars. And the whole basis of this podcast gets down to why vegetables are bad, okay? And I want you to hear me out here. I'm being serious. I want you to try to set aside your bias for a little bit, because my bias is exactly what your bias is just years prior. I thought the same thing. And to this day, I love vegetables. I actually love the taste of vegetables. Vegetables are great. I can eat them, and my body does fairly well with them. However, what we're looking at, guys, is why these could possibly be bad in large quantities, and why our ancestors did not just eat. They're not just herbivores. They didn't eat plants to stay alive, okay? So in large quantities, and this is a study done by Bruce Ames, who is also in correlation with Rhonda Patrick, who, if you know Rhonda Patrick, she's the smartest individual on the planet Earth when it comes to nutrition and science. And he published a article, a study called 99.9% of pesticides we eat. Listen here, 99.9% of pesticides we eat are produced by plants themselves, by Bruce Ames, Rhonda Patrick's mentor. So having said that, we think about pesticides as glyphosate and all these things that we're spraying on our plants and X, Y, and Z. But he is making the statement and the argument that 99.9% of pesticides we are produced by the plant. And so I want to dive into this so this all makes sense. So when we think about plants, when we think about the production of plants and different aspects of these plants, we think of them as a viable food source, right? But the biggest thing with plants is they don't, how should I put this? The plant's whole end goal is to reproduce and evolve throughout time, right? So either the plants want to spread their seeds like a dandelion, okay? The wind blows, we kick it over, it spreads its seeds, and it reproduces. Or they want an animal, a human, to consume that food so that it can be shit out and reproduced and evolve across all human evolution. So with plants, main goal is just reproduction and evolution. That's how I want you to think about plants right now. Again, please try to set this bias aside because I held the same exact bias my whole life. And this is just newly adopted for me. So plants have their own agenda, and all it is to spread and reproduce and move their DNA forward in life. Okay? That's exactly what plants want to do. However, when we think about plants, when we think about getting ready to eat plants, when they're not like, say, a bear that is going to actually defend themselves. Plants can't move and plants can't defend themselves physically. So what they do is a majority of these pesticides are made within the plants. So how it works is when a plant is stressed or damaged during ingestion or a pest attack, an animal attack, or whatever it is, in the paper, dietary pesticides, 99.9% are produced by the actual plant. It says, when plants are stressed or damaged, such as a pest attack, they may greatly increase their natural pesticide levels, occasionally to levels that can be acutely toxic to humans or animals. So they have this natural defense mechanism that we can't see, that we can't observe with the human eye, that actually increase to acute toxic levels of pesticides before they're eaten. So that is their defense mechanism. So when they're stressed, they're going to have that happen. But if you think about the actual fruit bearing, the actual fruit that is made from that plant, we don't get that same issue. It's the thing that is asking to be eaten. Evolution has made that needs to be eaten. So a very, very, it kind of puts things into perspective. And I want to talk about cabbage, okay? So he has this whole list on this article about different things and the amounts of pesticides that they have and their defense mechanisms broken down. But I want you to pay attention to this right here. And it says, and I quote, "We estimate that humans ingest roughly 5,000 to 10,000 different natural pesticides and their breakdown products. For example, Table 1 shows 49 natural pesticides and metabolites within the plant that is made by the plant that are ingested when cabbage is eaten and indicates how few have been tested for carcinogen products." I'll say that again. We ingest over 5,000 to 10,000 different pesticides and their breakdown products, but just in cabbage, there's over 49 natural pesticides actually produced by the plant. So we never look at vegetables as such. Vegetables have always had this narrative of very healthy, very health conscious people eat massive amounts of vegetables. In massive amounts of quantities, if you eat one carrot, you're going to be okay. But over time, we eat massive, massive amounts of vegetables. We can actually damage gut microbiome. We can actually damage and create oxidative stress within our body. And this is due to these plants. And I know this is like, where the hell is this coming from? But I promise you can look it up. 99.9% of, I'll get the exact title, 99.9% of all pesticides are natural within the plant. They produce the pesticide. So again, I truly enjoy vegetables, but the research is sound. The research is very sound. This table, going down to this table, has everything from parsley, parsnip, celery, mushrooms, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, orange juice, mango, nutmeg, pineapple, honey, coffee, apples. And it goes all the way down this list of different fruits and vegetables, so you can have that contrast of how many natural pesticides are made in their defense mechanism. And so, does this work for your lifestyle? I don't know. Is it worth a shot? I don't know. For me, it was. I wasn't reaching my potential. I wasn't doing the things that I wanted to do. And now I've been able to. And as I showed, hopefully I showed them earlier in the video, but if I haven't, here's these results, guys. Like, look at these results, please. It's very interesting to see. This is raw. This is honest. This is open. It works. And it just doesn't work for an aesthetics look, to lose weight, get ripped, X, Y, and Z. We're looking at optimal health. We're looking at thriving, not just surviving. We're looking at thriving, providing our body what it needs. And that is exactly why I've kind of tried this carnivore. And the biggest thing, like I said, I have zero intentions of stopping. This is what I'm going to do. And the biggest thing, my wife and I are trying to have kids and doing all these different things. And you think about bringing a kid up in this world, right? And if we start young and we feed them candy and sugars and pop and all these things, it's just like drugs, people. It's just like drugs. They're going to get addicted to that. They want that. They're going to try to obtain all these different things. But if we can start them out, very simply put, we can start them with meat. We can start them with fruits. We can do these things that set our kids up for success 50 years down the road. This is the impact that I talked about. I wasn't reaching my potential. And I want to have this massive impact on people and their people and their friends and their kids and their kids. And one of the biggest cool success stories is a great friend that I have, Cole Hecker. I played college football with Cole Hecker. Cole is one of the most genuine, nice, funny human beings I've ever met. Just a great individual. You see him, you're going to sit down and talk for 15 minutes. Like, it's not high and by. Like, he's a very great individual. And after college football, he just got wrapped up in life. Getting married, work, not playing football anymore, X, Y, and Z. And he was in an unhealthy state that he didn't want to be in. And so Cole dropped everything and went freaking head first into carnivore. And it's very, very cool to see. And I'm going to pull up this text from Cole. And this is exactly what Cole told me. And he said, I just did a body scan at Anytime. I'm down almost 4 pounds and 1% of body fat. The muscle mass is the exact same. I've only been doing carnivore for 2 weeks. He's only been doing carnivore for a week as of today, March 3rd. So these things can happen, and if you're looking for the aesthetics look, awesome, whatever. You can do it, and it's going to help. But if you're looking for true optimal health and thriving, this is the way to go. And it doesn't match everybody. I'm not making a black or white statement. I'm just saying that this can actually truly help the individual. And it is looking like this is what our ancestors did and the optimal diet behind it. And so again, I talk about diets versus lifestyle. This is a lifestyle for me. I plan on never stopping. Diets don't work. Diets are shit. We need to change the underlying causes of our nutrition and our diet habits. Mine was unhealthy relationship with food, but as soon as I broke that, as soon as I quit having the brown sugar and butter and toast like a fat shit, I was able to break that and not want that anymore. Okay? So, giving you guys a little something so you guys can kind of look up and where to start. Okay? First off, I need you to do your own research. We need you to do your own research. A good rule of thumb, you can look at Mark Bell is a great example. You can look at Joe Rogan's even done it a little bit, but he only does it in month stints, which I'm not a big fan of. You can look at Carnivore MD. He's going to bring you the very other side of the spectrum. I mean, this son of a bitch is drinking testicle, heart, and liver blood as a cocktail. But then there's grounded principles that help. I mean, having ground beef, having steaks, having bone marrow, raw dairy, and fruits. So you get this research accumulated so you can make the best educated decision for yourself. So do your own research. Very basically, the first and most important thing that you need to do is you need to have at least 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein. So if you weigh 150 pounds, let's shoot for 150 pounds of protein every single day. And how I do it, I need to hit about 200 to 215-ish. I try to get 70 to 75 grams of protein every meal. Okay? And I post up on my page. You can follow Coach_Wortman. I post up on my page what I'm eating and everything. So I'm not even going to tell you all that. You look at the pictures, you'll see a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and how it all works for me. I've just recently dove into the organ meats and the bone marrows, and it's taking time to actually adapt into that. But it took us time to like coffee too, right? So that's a big thing there. Number 3, nose to tail for your micronutrients. And if you can't or don't like nose to tail, it's not optimal, but there is great supplements for that to be, so you can get your micronutrients. Heart and soil. So heart instead of soul, it's soil, SOIL, has great supplements for organ meats, for overall micronutrient needs from a supplement. And then lastly, guys, sustainability. Jumping in and changing everything works for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody. Make the tangible, small little changes so that you can get into this. For me, I'm 100 or nothing kind of guy, so I needed to stop everything, or I was going to continue to eat toast, or I was going to continue to have pasta, or whatever it was. So I want you to find something that's sustainable for you. If you need help, please reach out. We have nutritional consultations that we can help you with. I am not a registered dietitian. This is not dietitian advice, but I can help guide you on a decision that you will need to make for your health, for your kids' health, for your kids' health. So, like I said, I don't ever plan on stopping this, so you guys can hear about this all the time. I appreciate everything and all that you guys do for Next Level Radio. It is so much fun to get to talk shit and learn and be the stupidest person in the room every single week. So thank you for listening to Next Level Radio. Thank you for being a badass. Keep charging. Stay hard. We will see you guys next week.